You know, your last comment was significant when you say in fiscal year 19. My concern is fiscal year 20 and fiscal year 21. And I think that maybe during the course of these questions, you'll be asked, what happens if we don't continue what we started with the two-year budget? It could be a disaster. Let's start off with China a little bit. Four of us on this committee just got back recently from the South China Seas, visiting with our allies there, and it's most people don't know what really is going on with China in that part of the world. You know, they hear about the islands that are out there, and they talk about reclaiming islands. It's not reclaiming because there's nothing to reclaim. It's building, creating, and now they're up to 7 different areas, very important areas for our movement in that part of the world. Everything that we see there is as if they're preparing for World War III. Everything's military, not offense, it's defense. And it's really gotten the attention of our allies. And one of the things that I think all of us would agree on is that whether it's the Philippines, South Korea, Taiwan, Japan, they're all concerned and kind of covering both bases. This sounds pretty extreme, but it's almost as if they're trying to decide whose side are they going to be on when this happens. I mean, that's the kind of preparation that's taking place. And we know that China is producing at least 12 warships a year, developing new long-range weapons systems and fifth generations. So I'd like to let's start with you, Admiral Richardson. What do you see those potential challenges, and what are they up to in this, what they refer to as the reclamation projects that they have that now exceeds, 3,000 acres, I guess? Admiral?
Sir, I think you've characterized that exactly right, and I would say that the Chinese have been very clear about what they're up to with their discussions of the Belt and Road Initiative, which may begin in the South China Sea, but actually extends around through the Straits of Malacca into the Indian Ocean, up into the Middle East, and into Europe. And so
it's all around. We understand that. We know what they're doing right now in Djibouti. This is the first foreign-based operation that they've had, I guess, in recent history. And so it's not just there. It's certainly in Europe, the same. But that's a place where we recently were, and it really does affect the Navy's attention more than the other areas. How about you, Mr. Secretary? What's your thinking about what are they up to there in the South China Seas?
Well, Senator, we know what their activity is in the South China Seas. I'd like to actually elevate it and tell you what we're observing they're doing across the whole spectrum.
I understand that, yeah.
Just the other day, we were about to let a contract to one of our primes, and we found out that in that division that we were going to contract to, Huawei was a joint venture partner. And we turned around and said, whoa, stop the horses. We'd like to know what this means. Talked to the prime. The prime said, no problem. We're not going to use any of the assets of Huawei nor its software. It was a very enjoyable call. And then all of a sudden we said, great, can we see the governance documents of the joint venture? And things got very frosty. We have now put prophylactic language in this agreement to prevent any creeping further. I bring this up as an example, too. It's not just the South China Sea. It's across the full spectrum that China is coming at us.
Yeah, and I agree. That's why I said, but right, this is fresh in our minds right now, and it's something very overt, and it's one that is considered serious enough in that part of the world that our allies, historically our allies, are kind of divided as to what they think, where their allegiance may be changed to, and that's very, very concerning. Let's talk a little bit about the pilot shortage. I know I understand it's not quite as serious with you guys as it is with the Air Force, but are you looking down the road now that we've made some changes and we're looking at 2 years in fiscal years 18 and 19, we're going to be able to make some changes? Express your concern right now, but maybe with you, General Neller and the Marines,
So we share the same concern. Our numbers are not as drastic or dramatic as the Air Force, but we have instituted a bonus that we haven't paid for many, many years. And we've extended it out to 16 years. We're looking at different ways to take advantage of people that might be leaving to keep them in the reserves. And we're in direct competition with the commercial airlines because they have a huge pilot shortfall around the world. It's not just pilots, it's maintainers. We just offered a reenlistment bonus to our younger maintainers, and a significant number of them took it, which will give us some stability because that's an experience base that you
What
don't
about
wanna-
flying hours? It's been our
Flight and Hours Center
concern.
they've gone up. I can show you.
Okay,
probably
that's
4
good.
hours per model type series across the force in the last year. I saw a story the other day that said it was really only the forward deployed forces, so I got the data call on that. Actually, depending upon what model type series you're talking about, some of the home station forces are actually flying more than the forces that are forward deployed. Is it where we want to be? No. And this budget that you have given us will allow us to create a steady stream of parts and spares, because parts and spares, or a lack of,
Sure.
is the #1 downing requirement for aircraft to get
Well,
them up to mission capability.
in the Marines, specifically the F-18 has been a problem in terms of what's ready to fight. And I know that that's going up from about 40 to 50% right now. Do you project getting on up where you would need to be, which I understand it to be about 65%?
We want to get it as high as we can. We funded in this budget funds parts and spares and aviation maintenance at a higher level than we ever have before. So there's a certain flash to bang time on that. The Secretary's done some work with the depots to require them to provide back to us upon completion of depot maintenance an aircraft in a better state of condition so that it's more ready to fly at a sooner time. We're resetting 53s, so you are correct. The two most distressed communities in marine aviation are F-18s and CH-53s.
Yeah, well, the Secretary and I share in our background some of these things, and I think you pretty much agree with the comments that he's making. Thank you, Senator Reed.